أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم
कोई कैसे समझ पाए रुतबा सब्ज़ गुंबद का
صلاة الله سلام الله على यासीन حبيب الله
नज़र में जमाले हबीबे खुदा उनकी तस्वीर सीने में मौजूद है।
What did Allah say? Tell them, don't say Amana, but say Aslamna. Iman is yet to enter your hearts. You have only accepted Islam.
Come bring your family and friends for this free night of powerfully packed talent on January 13th at 4:30 p.m. at the Baraka Grounds in Chikwanas. For more information, contact Alhikmat office at 325-8276. Food will be on sale and of course admission is free. See you there inshallah.
Wafiq Transport Limited. Contact 715-6463 or 673-0152. Located at 86 Orenfield Road, Karapi, Chima. Services include vacuum, septic services, sock pile, sand gravel, etc., trailers, heavy equipment for sale such as flatbeds, drop decks, container trailers, and lots more.
Southern Hatcheries Limited. Suppliers of both live and processed broiler chickens. Parts available in both tray packs and case bags to suit your needs. Leg and thighs, wings, liver and gizzard. Also suppliers of both live and processed ducks. All meats strictly halal. Visit us at 440 Komodo Road, Barrackport. Or call us at 654-3938 or 361-08.
Ya Nabi, Salam alayka, Ya Habib.
Bounty Kings, Bounty Castles presents brand new luxury castles for all events. You can contact us at telephone number 749-4342 or you can also email us at bountykings1@gmail.com. A-Class Glamour presents to you wholesaling and retailing of premium lines of cosmetics for all skin types, designer jewelry, and many accessories. Brands include ColourPop, Maybelline, Revlon Professional, Urban Decay, Sephora, and many more. To get a hold of these products, you can call Sadiq Khan at 345-5824 or Amira Khan at 759-6089. You can also visit our Facebook page at A-Class Glamour to follow for newly released lines of products.
सदक़े में आका सारे जहां को दीन मिला बेदीनों ने कलमा पढ़ा ला इलाहा इल्लल्लाह तेरे सदक़े में आका सारे जहां को दीन मिला बेदीनों ने कलमा पढ़ा ला इलाहा इल्लल्लाह.
If you'd like to advertise or be a sponsor of this show, please contact Alhikmat office. Telephone number 1954-986-0158 or 1-868-325-8276. Or you can email us at alhikmat@ alhikmat.com.
I want to welcome each and every one of you again, formally and officially, to this live talk show. The name of this show is Voice, V-O-I-C-E, and it stands for itself. Voice of Interfaith Community Expressions. So you feel free to voice your opinions, express yourselves at this program here. So without any further delay, I want to introduce Deacon Norm Carroll, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves and say who they are and where they're from, rather than I doing that. So I begin. You can take the mic off the stand so you can have it in your hands and just pass it on. You will do the same thing here. So, Deacon Norm Carroll.
Yes, I am Deacon Norm Carroll, and I'm here as from the St. Benedict's Episcopal Church in Plantation. Years ago, I studied to be a priest in the Roman Catholic faith, but whether Catholic or whether Episcopal, I'm of the core belief that we all belong together, and that we all must stand together for the cause of peace.
And we have Reverend Dr. Grace Telesco.
Assalamu alaikum. Alhamdulillah. My name is Reverend Dr. Grace Telesco. I'm from the Darshan Center for Spiritual Evolution in Wilton Manors, and it is an interfaith center and also Sacred Journey Interfaith Seminary where we train folks who are called to interfaith ministry. I'm also a retired lieutenant NYPD after 20 years. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. Thank you very much. And we'll ask my friend on the right here, Reverend John White, to do his introduction.
Good morning and assalamu alaikum. I am excited and honored and humbled to come next door. This is my second time. I've shared one Friday, slid in the back, and was tremendously blessed. I am just leaving Ghana and Paris and Amsterdam with a group from my church, and tomorrow I'm going to Haiti. So we are excited. I am grateful for our partnership. We share parking lots together. And we've never had any issues. Somebody ought to say amen. I know it's Sunday. Y'all can say amen. I know. Can y'all say amen? Somebody say amen.
Amen.
Right, thank y'all.
Amen.
Y'all made me feel so much better. And we are excited about being here, and I'm happy to be a part of this dialogue. I'm the pastor of the Emmanuel Temple AME Church, which is right next door. We are a church that's be 6 years old in April. And we are happy to be with our brothers and sisters from other mothers and fathers. Amen.
Thank you very much. Rabbi Mark Weiner.
I think I'm the eldest of the panel. I'm going to be 75 this week.
It's a pleasure to have you. Thank you very much.
Inshallah, I'm going for 120, just like Moses.
Inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum. It's such a pleasure to be back with you here and to be with my trusty sidekick, Sheikh Shafayat. I really love this place. There are a number of my fellow Jews who think I spend more time at mosques and churches than at synagogues, but it doesn't matter. I was a synagogue rabbi for 43 years. That was my day job. But my night job and my passion, since I was a little boy, I was born in Utah and I grew up in Texas, so I'm a Jewish cowboy. And since I was a very little boy, and I once was a little boy, I was very much into being a Jew myself, but I loved talking with people of all different religions and getting to know them, getting to understand them. And over the many years of my very rich and wonderful life, praise be to God for that, I have spent a lot of time building bridges and building partnerships in which people could live together in mutual respect and celebrate their differences. That's as much a part of my faith and my worldview as is my own deep commitment to the Jewish tradition. And I don't see that as a conflict whatsoever. The last 20 years, I have specialized in Islam. I studied with 6 Islamic scholars in London who were all graduates of the great Islamic University in Cairo. And they studied with me, and we all learned to build together. So I'm really privileged to be here. I'm really delighted to be a part of this conversation.
Thank you very much, Rabbi. And those of you who are aware of the program and would have received one of these flyers, you would know that the topics of discussion on this live talk show are very interesting topics, realistic topics of what's happening around in America, in the world today. But because we're in America, we will focus on America and what's going on around from an interfaith perspective, because we got the interfaith leaders here. And I don't think I need to introduce myself. Everyone knows me, Sheikh Shafayat, the Amir and Principal of Darul Uloom Institute here, and the Alhikmat TV, the founder of Alhikmat TV. We got the entire crew around. As I said before, we are live on Alhikmat TV, on YouTube, and on Facebook. And we have been working very hard by the mercy of God Almighty to keep this network going, and we want to say a special Jazakallah. May God Almighty bless all those brothers and sisters who have been very influential and very helpful in making this Al-Hikmah TV network successful, that people all over the world can view our programs, our sermons, our lectures and different educational programs. It has been very beneficial because one of the questions that a lot of non-Muslim friends have always had is, are you guys, or are you Muslims, people who talk nice in churches and interfaith programs, and then in your mosque and in your religious places and with your Muslims, you are all against Christians, Jews, Americans, and the West? And I kept on telling them no. And that was one of the things that motivated us to go live on our sermons, so that the world outside can see it's uncensored, so everyone can see what we say here, what we preach here. It's the same thing we say out there. And you can go on YouTube or Al-Hikmah TV or Facebook, and you can verify that. So today the topics are race and religion in America. Some interesting topics, and you would have known that played a major role in the elections and the various elections over the years that take place in America, especially the last one. We're also going to talk a little bit on gun violence in America. So I'm not going to go and ask each one of the panelists to speak a little bit. I'm not going to do that, and then open the floor for questions. It's a talk show, so you want everyone to be part of this. Feel like you're in an Oprah Winfrey talk show here this morning. Just say what you want to say, how you want to say it. I know you will not use any obscene languages. We don't want to say anything bad about anybody. We want to be constructive and intellectual. All right? So we will leave the floor open now. We also got some pens, and we got paper here. Anyone who will not like to come up on the microphone, we have a wireless mic. We have a wireless mic that we're going to pass around. Just raise your hands, and one of our ushers will bring it to you. And you can feel free to ask your question. And as you ask your question, please hand the mic back so they can pass it to the next person. And that, in the meantime, the panelists will be answering your question. All right?
I'll start.
Okay, we got...
I'm concerned about the America that I'm living in right now. When it comes to people of color, minorities, I'm very concerned that we can't, in my words, have a Rodney King spirit. We can't all get along, regardless of who we worship, how we worship, where we worship, that we can agree to disagree and not let our differences divide us. for the common good. I'm particularly in the person who's sitting in the White House and the divide and conquer tactics. The recent tweets against our Muslim brothers and sisters. That there's an adage that says that when I came for the Muslims and nobody said anything, and then when I came for the Jews and nobody said anything, and then keeps going on with different groups, and then no one was left but us, and nobody said anything. I'm concerned that people in the majority community are not speaking out when oppression happens. As a student of history, in the civil rights movement in particular, Jews as well as some of our Protestant brothers and sisters were a big part of that movement. Why can't we start another kind of movement that combats the foolishness and the shenanigans that's going on social media in particular? That's my 2 cents for right now.
So I would ask any one of the panelists who would like to respond to that, and then again we'll open it up to the floor.
Glad to. I want to second everything that my black brother here has just said, because I agree with every word that he said, including his great concern. What I want to emphasize, though, is how important it is for all of us to be hopeful, to resist, and to be resilient, okay? Hopeful, resilient, resist. Those are the 3 words that I want to emphasize. Because I've lived such a long life, I've been through a lot of things in this country and in this world, and I've experienced a lot of things in a lot of places. And though I can recognize this is a bad time, I've experienced worse. I grew up in the segregated South. I went to a segregated schools. I was the only white boy in the NAACP Youth Council in Texas. And I was a sit-in leader, and when I was a chaplain in the United States Army, I was an anti-war demonstrator and worker, and I've been through a lot of things. I've earned my stripes. And I think it's really important that we be hopeful that when we work together, we can accomplish things. We need to have the steel resilience within ourselves to stand up and to resist the hatred which is against any other in our society. And I think we have to recognize that the way that we're going to do that is precisely as the Reverend said, by forming coalitions of decency to work for mutual respect, to be focused on what we're working for, and to not permit words of hatred to be espoused toward anybody. We have to stand up together against racism, Islamophobia, anti-Semitism, Christophobia, which is hatred of Christians, which there is some of. And we have to recognize that every single one of our groups has a fundamental problem within. We all have a conflict within our different religious groups between fundamentalist extremists on the one side and moderates. Without any equivocation, I say we have that problem among Jews. We've always had that problem. We have the problem big time right now between fundamentalist extremists on the one hand and moderates. Moderates of all groups get together, and we are overwhelmingly the majority of people on the face of the earth. But a lot of time we allow the extremist fundamentalists to seize the public spotlight and to be the ones who are always speaking on television and are always written about in the newspapers. So we have to publicize these kind of events, and we have to speak about these kind of events together, where we work together, we link arms together, we stand up for each other. Those are the principles that we all should espouse.
So I suppose that we have already accepted the fact that there are a great amount of race. around us. So we have passed that stage of asking the question, do you think race exists? So based on what the rabbi has said and the reverend, we have already passed that stage. Now we're talking about the solution. So I'll pass the microphone on again now to the deacon and reverend for your comments, and please get your questions ready, the audience.
I couldn't help but remember back a year ago when I was considering my vote, and I was considering whether to vote Republican or Democrat, for a male or a female, for Clinton or for Trump. And then I realized that I did not really have an accurate standard by which to judge these two. So I retreated into my solitary self and came to the realization that we must select our candidates according to two standards. One is competence, and the other is truth and compassion, kindness. I'm not going to tell you how I voted, but I will tell you that these standards are eternal standards, particularly the latter, so that religion does have a role to play in politics, a direct role, because it directly affects the politicians and how they think and the decisions that they make. Standards also apply to the worth of a nation. And so I couldn't help but remember last year that in Japan, there were 50 who were murdered by guns. In Europe, in each nation of Europe, approximately 150 were taken by gun violence. And then in Canada, it rose to 200 for the year of 2016. And in the United States, over 10,000. Something is wrong. And so as we look within our own hearts, we must analyze what's going on there. How can I help? And so this morning, I'm ready to announce that I shall not ever have a gun in my possession, that I shall never have a gun in my home, because I believe we must reach out to each other in trust, not with bullets and not with hateful language, but with the truth of our God, of Allah, of Adonai. This is why we're here, and so I invite all of you to take the same pledge, not to live in fear, but to live in mutual trust.
So I come from two different perspectives. I come from a spiritual perspective and also a practical perspective, having been a police officer, a sergeant, and a lieutenant in the NYPD, and having trained thousands of police recruits in my tenure 1,000 years ago, it feels like. So from the spiritual aspect, I want to say that I want to piggyback on what Rabbi said about hope, because I believe in the compassion of God and the mercifulness of God, and I believe in God's protection, al-Raqib, and God's generosity, and I believe in God's peace. And so I plug into that from a spiritual perspective and say that if I can be those things, if I can be peace, if I could be generosity, if I could act as protector by standing up for my brothers and my sisters who are being biased, discriminated against, harmed. If I can do that, I can be the change, as Gandhi said, in the world that I want to see. But then on the practical perspective and the practical reality, and I've spoken about this a couple of different times over the course of my tenure in policing and as a criminal justice professor, and that is that we need action, and then action has to take place at the police level, at the governmental level, at the community level, and at the individual level. So when I say take action, what do I mean? I mean that we can inform our policies, we can inform our practices, our criminal justice practices, and as far as our government is concerned, this is the challenge that we have been presented with today. The government that we have, the leaders that we have. This is a challenge, but it isn't something that we need to despair around, in my opinion, and that is because of our spiritual understanding that God is the leader and that God can take care of us if we do the footwork. And I believe that if we take one step toward God, God takes 1,000 steps towards us. I know that. I believe that. And so the challenge for us is in policing, is to go to our leaders, who are our commissioners, our chiefs of police, as a community and as communities coming together and letting these police departments know how important training is, how important education of police is, how important policies and practices are, and to be able to really listen to what the communities are saying.
Thank you very much. Again, politics and religion in America, race and gun violence. So the audience, you don't have to stick to one topic, and we're not going one after the other. On any one of these topics, feel free to ask your question. Yes, sir. You have the microphone.
Good morning, all of you. All of you already mentioned directly or indirectly that religious influence politics more or less, and it's happened before too, nothing new. So my question is now, since you know that religious influence in politics is good, bad, whatever it is, did you guys take any initiative to separate religious from the politics, or any thought for future so it doesn't harm the religious belief based on the political affiliation? Thank you.
Anyone of the panelists would like to respond? Okay, Deacon.
Politics is a thing, a science. What we're interested in is the politicians. And the politicians, as well as every man and woman, make their decisions and form their policies according to their beliefs. And this is where religion comes in. Religion must impact the thinking of every one of us. And rather than complain about our politicians, perhaps we should take measures, as was mentioned by my sister Grace, measures to influence positively the togetherness of all of us and demonstrate this to our politicians. Politics and religion do go together through the politicians.
Wonderful, wonderful.
There's no way of separating politics from religion, but it's very important to protect the life of our polity, the entire society, against any kind of illusion that any one politician or any one position possesses all of the religious truth. And what we have, which is very destructive right now, is we have certain positions which are being taken by politicians who are claiming that their position is a result of their religious faith, and that their religious faith certifies only one position. We have to find the way to build a society in which we can be respectful of all of the differences in our society, just as we have to construct that kind of a world in which we're mutually respectful of all the differences in our world. We're not going to have a world where everybody is a Muslim, or everybody is a Hindu, or everybody is a Christian. Certainly not where everybody is a Jew, God forbid. Let me tell you, when Jews take control, they start fighting among themselves just like Muslims. It's a great, great reality. And I want to remind all of you, Dr. Grace mentioned Gandhi, and really one of the prophets of the modern world for all of us. I want to remind you that Gandhi was murdered, was assassinated by a Hindu extremist who was opposed to Gandhi's efforts to keep India together and to keep Muslims and Hindus together. In other words, Gandhi, a Hindu, was assassinated because he was reaching out to Muslims and trying to keep Muslims and Hindus together. I want to remind you, and I say this, I'm not only an American citizen, I'm also a British citizen, though certainly not born there, that before the British, Muslims, out of respect for Hindus, did not eat beef in India because they were living together in the society. And even though, according to halal, as all of you Muslims know, there's nothing wrong with eating beef as long as it's slaughtered and prepared properly. But out of respect for their Hindus who lived in the same society, they said, we're not going to do that because we want to be respectful to our Hindu neighbors. Now, that's the kind of society that we have to build, where we have each other's backs, we respect each other, we stand up for each other, we stand up for the integrity of each other. Now, I want to touch on one other thing. I hope to hell that there are a couple of people here who are properly armed, okay, who are legal in carrying weapons, who've been designated as guards to the mosque. Because there are, and I hope to hell that the police are aware that we're having this meeting and that there's some kind of protection that we have. Because there are hateful people out there who, just like that Hindu extremist who assassinated Gandhi, there are people who would want to disrupt and demonstrate against this. There might even be a few Muslims who are upset that we're having this kind of meeting, that we're talking together. And I guarantee you that there are Jews and there are Christians who think the fact that we talk together and that Shafayat and I are friends, that's something outrageous. We need to find appropriate ways to deal with guns. We're not going to be able to ban weapons the way that they have in Britain. And as I think the deacon said, there's just a tiny number of gun murders. We actually have close to 35,000 people who are killed by guns in America. And we have more guns per capita than any society in the world. We're not going to be able to get rid of them, but we have to work together to get better control. And if there is no way that I want to live in a place in America where the police don't have weapons. I like that in London. They did that very well. But here, we need police that are armed, and we probably need protection for our religious institutions, unfortunately, because there are people out there who hate us and who'd love to take us down and love to attack us, and we can't permit that. So I think there's a kind of a balance. I was a sharpshooter when I was a kid. I was an Army chaplain, as I said. I had my marksmanship merit badge as a Boy Scout. I was even a member of the NRA, and I've been a police chaplain my entire career in one place or another, including in London, including in New York, and I'm the chaplain to the sheriff in Palm Beach County right now. So, I'm not afraid of guns in the right hands, in the hands of the military, in the hands of the police, in the hands of designated, licensed, trained guards that we need. But the proliferation of guns, the ability of nut jobs to get guns, is something that we got to work on together to shut down.
I know that politics and gun violence and religion are such interesting topics that there will be differences of opinion. And that's one of the reasons why we decided to talk on those topics, which are topics that create a lot of, that provoke the minds of people in America. You'll have a lot of differences of opinion, and hence the reason why we wanted to bring our religious interfaith leaders today on this program, voice your interfaith expressions on these matters from a learning and educational point of view, because we live in such a society, and it's important that we have a balance and we understand. We kind of change that. We will always have to agree to disagree and understand and accept other people's opinion, but the bottom line is we live with love and unity and understanding of each other. Okay, we have the Reverend.
I am, in response to my brother, I'm concerned that non-persons of colors extremists are given a pass, but persons of color extremists are not. Those who are part of the Ku Klux Klan would say they are Christians. They're given a pass to hold tikis and hold marches in Virginia. But Muslim or other faith communities that have extremists, the president calls them certain names. But persons who look like him, who do violent acts, get a pass. I have a problem with that.
We know how you voted.
Okay, yeah, exactly. We do know how I voted.
You know how I voted.
I'm struggling with. I struggle with that. I struggle with that. I struggle with the fact that when I'm here at work on Friday, there must be a police vehicle in the front of the mosque to deter anyone from doing any violent acts to people who want to worship their God. Just as much as I struggled with when I went to Charleston, South Carolina, to Mother Emanuel, where I had preached, where I've worshiped, when a person that didn't look like them came in and committed violent acts. Why do we have to have police protection in places where we worship, where we welcome others, because of the society that we live in, that we can't agree to disagree and be okay with that?
Okay, so let's get a question from the audience now. Yes, could we have the microphone?
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you guys for coming here and having this moment for everyone. So to your point, there's a lot of hate going on. And so my question specifically is, how can we outsell people like Donald Trump that there's a lot more common ground than what they're suggesting? Because I think at the end of the day, he's just selling people effectively on whatever, negative belief, or that there's a lot more negativity or lack of common ground than exists. So what can we do as a community and as individuals, and I don't know if you guys have anything planned, to outsell them on the truth, I'd say?
Can I have Reverend Grace?
Okay, go ahead,
make
Reverend.
a comment on that? Yes.
We all going to jump in on that one.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
yes. Everybody seems to love Trump, right? You just, as you hear the name Trump, you just jump on Trump. That's good. It rhymes together anyhow. Go ahead.
As individuals, as community, and especially as clergy leaders, it's very, very important that we make sure our voices are heard. And that, especially as clergy, we do have the ability through Alhikmat TV, through Facebook, through our social media, through our newsletters, through our websites, to stand up and say, this is not okay, and we take a stand against it. It's one thing to be a philosopher, an armchair philosopher, and sit and say, I don't like what's going on, and it's another to take the stand. And taking the stand in being a panelist, in coming to a session like this, to be here to support what Sheikh is doing here, this all is so important. And what I wanted to say is that I would urge anyone who has a website or has any kind of social media at their fingertips to post on their wall or on their website an actual proclamation that says that this is not okay. We have this on Darshan Center's website. It says, not here, not now, not us. We say no to the current political discourse that would have citizens and residents of the United States acquiesce to a policy of discrimination based upon one's religious affiliation. And we signed that actual proclamation in December 10th, 2015, so this is the anniversary of this. But it's important to keep on saying this. It's important for us to make a stand, no matter what. Exactly what Rabbi said earlier about when they came for fill in the blank. We have to stand up for our people of color brothers and sisters who are, and you're exactly right in saying that there's a different standard, and that's not okay. It's not okay for that to happen. We have to stand up and do something about it, and I believe that getting involved with our police departments is the first step. As a community, we can go to police departments and we could become part of the dialogue.
And that comment is coming from someone who has how many years of experience in the police?
20 years as a police lieutenant in NYPD and very involved with educating police recruits. You know, we have something called the Citizens Police Academy. We have something called a clergy collective. I don't know what it is down here at BSO or Miami or what the police department structure is like or how willing and accepting they are to hear what we have to say, but we can make a difference. And we have a wonderful avenue through the mosque, a wonderful avenue, because you already have this community collective, and then you can just kind of get your in through the sheikh, through the panelists. I'm certainly here to help in any way possible.
And that's 20 years of NYPD lieutenant experience. Wonderful. Thank you very much, Reverend. And Reverend White had his hand up here.
For me, I have not seen the majority communities come out against these issues in major numbers. I'm concerned about that. I was one of those persons who didn't think Trump was going to win. And in the words, I was fooled like everybody else. But I'm concerned now that I don't see the majority community speaking out against the foolishness. And it's like it's okay that we get a pass, that nobody speaks up. That's what I would want to see from the majority community, whether it's whoever they are, whether they're Republican, Democrat, red state, blue state, independent, whatever side they would fall on. That's what I would want to see. It would make me feel more comfortable. If there happens to be an issue with our Muslim brothers and sisters who are next to us, or if something happens for us and we move to another location, I pray that our relationships developed, that we can always work together. In the words of one preacher, my theology does not need to dictate my sociology. How I view God does not need to dictate my compassion for other human beings, regardless of what God they serve. And for me, my theology is not so warped that it can't be driven by sociology. The way I view God taught. That's.
So while the rabbi is making his comments, those of you who have a question, please raise your hands so the brother with the microphone will know to pass the mic
I
for you
defer to
accordingly,
my
okay?
handsome friend here to my left.
So keep your eyes on those hands that went up, Brother Shamir. Go ahead. Okay, so you're gonna.
I defer
Okay.
to him to ask a question.
Okay, we got a question here, Brother Shamir, in the front here, and then we got one in the back there also. So.
Assalamu alaikum, good morning and shalom. When I first came to this country, I immigrated from England. The immigration officer asked me, why are you coming to this country to live? I said, I'm here to take back the colonies. And the reason why I made that statement, I made that statement, because of the division that's happening in this country, I found that the leaders and the popular leaders in this country, the church leaders, the evangelists that you see on television every day, preaching to millions and millions of people, are not making an impact in this country to bring the people together. And I wonder why. And that is my view on that. But my question is to Reverend White. Reverend, one of the major problems I see is racism in this country. I was born in Trinidad and Tobago, where we don't have that problem, because we live together as a people. In England, I have not seen it. I don't know for now, but I have not seen that either. But what I have noticed among the people of African origin living in these countries, one of the main reasons I think the problem may lie in that because there's so many single mothers that I know personally with children with no role models in the home. And as a result, they are not pushed to excel or to succeed or to move into academic lines. And as a result of that, you find that the crime in these countries among the population, the immigrant population or the non-white population, the high incidence of crime is higher among the black community. Could you tell me why this might be?
I'm gonna let you start, Rabbi, and then I'll
Feel
come
free.
back.
I know it gets a little hot, but anyhow, that's why we're here. That's why we are here to get the questions and answers.
The African American community that we have in this country is the product of one of the two original sins of this society. One being the treatment of people of African origin who were brought over here in chains to be slaves, and the other original sin, which was the treatment of American Indians. Now, contrary to the way that Caribbean people of African origin were treated, there was a systematic effort during the period of slavery and then following in Jim Crow to destroy the spirit, to destroy the soul of African Americans, not just to use their bodies. The products of that we experience in the African American community with all sorts of social problems, and nobody is more aware of that than African Americans, but it's the product of hundreds of years of oppression and maltreatment and really destructive kind of things. In the Caribbean, in contrast to the United States, families were largely kept together. There was much more freedom to continue to observe African traditions, including African religious traditions. But in America, they tried to destroy all of that. Families were deliberately divided up, were deliberately sent in different directions. So, I mean, any kind of a condemnation of African Americans based on the statistics of crime, when you've tried to destroy people for 400 years, sometimes they have certain social problems as well as economic problems that create problems for all of us in our society. But we need to massively, as Americans, own what we've done. And I don't know what England you lived in, but I lived in a very racist England that was filled with bigotry. As a British citizen, I voted to remain in the European Union, but the vote to leave the European Union in Britain was a product of the same kind of racism which has produced Donald Trump in the United States, a racism which was anti-immigrant, which was anti-race, which was anti-Caribbean. The Africans in Britain are largely of Caribbean origin, and the bigotry is rampant there. I'm not saying we don't want to have a contest as to who's worse, okay? But the bigotry is there as much as any place else. So I just wanted to take up the cudgels for my African American brothers in this country and say, no way am I going to permit condemnation of them because of the products of the oppression over these hundreds of years that they've been here and they were brought here against their will. I celebrate that they have produced some of the greatest leaders of this country, including Martin Luther King and including, I would say, Barack Obama. I celebrate the great contributions to cultural life in America of African Americans, that despite their oppression, music in this country, culture in this country, and religion in this country. I grew up, I would go to synagogue on Friday night and Saturday, and I went to black churches on Sunday morning. And if I know how to preach and I know how to pray, it's because I learned it there. So, their contribution, despite their oppression, has been something incredible which we should celebrate. Yeah, we got to work together on the problems, but we got to own that we did it. We did it. I want to tell you a quick story. My family has only been in this country for a little bit over 100 years. And when I was in England, I was the rabbi who was at the celebration of the 50th anniversary of the Queen's coronation in 52. And she became queen in 52. She wasn't coronated until 53. So I was at Westminster Abbey. And the BBC called me in to ask me how I felt as an American celebrating the Queen when 250 years ago my ancestors overthrew George III. And I looked at them with his dumb look and I said, "Sir, at the time of George III, my ancestors were getting chased around the steppes of Russia by the Cossacks. Long live the Queen." I mean, you know, people don't realize we have history, but when we're all Americans, we are Americans as if we have been here for hundreds of years together. You've been here for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, whatever it is. You own this country now, and we got to own the responsibility for the original sin of the way that we treated African Americans, the way we did it not only in slavery, but in Jim Crow, and the way through all sorts of ways we've continued to treat them and to make sure they stay as second and third class citizens. We got to own that and work to overcome that.
So we have a question, but I'll let the Reverend respond before we get the next question. So please pass the microphone on to the next question, please.
Friday of last week, I was in Ghana. Led a pilgrimage of some members and some friends from our church to visit 2 of the slave castles. My second time visiting the Cape Coast slave castle. Walking through the door of no return. The last place slaves in Ghana were before they came to the Caribbean, South America, or even North America. I juxtapose that with being a 5th generation Floridian whose great-grandmother and great-grandfather were slaves. And that 1 out of 4 slaves made it to the new land. 3 out of 4 died in the Middle Passage. And the systemic injustice against African Americans in this country is not like anyone else, closely second only to the Jews.
It's not a contest. We want to.
Right. And so your quoting of statistics to me is out of context and not looking at the big picture. That families were ripped apart and culture was stolen. Some in the name of Jesus. And were made to be Christians and were made it laws passed against them to teach them how to read and write, and the only thing they taught them in the Bible was slaves obey your masters. Not that there's neither Jew, nor Greek, no slave, no free. So understanding that history and that 8 years ago, the viral attacks against Barack Obama by the present president, and 8 years later we elect him. Which says to me that whiteness trumps everything in this country. And I would dare say white maleness trumps everything in this country. So do we have problems? Yes. But when a system has been built to not to crush you, but to destroy you, and you still fight through that and accomplish great and wonderful, marvelous things, I think it says a lot of the testimony of the people of African Americans in this country. I think we can't take those things out of context. If I have no skills to find a job, and so I decide to go the criminal route to feed my family, I go to prison, I come out, I have no way to get a job because I have a record. I can't vote. And if I do get a job, the cost of living is so tremendous, housing is so tremendous in South Florida, then I'm stuck in a vicious cycle of poverty. While I've traveled the Caribbean, and the entrepreneurial spirit in the people in the Caribbean, regardless of the country, is tremendous. Because they have no other choice but to be entrepreneurs. But when you don't have that push in America, then when I can't get a loan, even though I may have the proper credit score because I'm a person of color. Or if I'm not controlling the person who's hiring the people because I don't look like them. Y'all understand? Okay.
So based on what we have heard, this question of race in America and with African Americans, etc., I don't know if some of you have following the steps and what has been happening, but you will notice that the Muslims are going up that same ladder. That same sort of suffering that African Americans faced here, we are seeing the same kind of racism being, attached to Muslims in America around, different places, maybe Miami and New York, I don't know, because of the multicultural setting, but in a lot of other states, it's very, very bad.
Wafiq Transport Limited. Contact 715-6463 or 673-0152. Located at 86 Orenfield Road, Karapi, Chima. Services include vacuum, septic services, sock pile, sand gravel, etc., trailers, heavy equipment for sale such as flatbeds, drop decks, container trailers, and lots more.
Southern Hatcheries Limited. Suppliers of both live and processed broiler chickens. Parts available in both tray packs and case bags to suit your needs. Leg and thighs, wings, liver and gizzard. Also suppliers of both live and processed ducks. All meats strictly halal. Visit us at 440 Komodo Road, Barrackport. Or call us at 654-3938 or 361-08.
Ya Nabi, Salam Alayka, Ya Habib.
Bounty Kings, Bounty Castles presents brand new luxury castles for all events. You can contact us at telephone number 749-4342, or you can also email us at bountykings1@gmail.com. A-Class Glamour presents to you wholesaling and retailing of premium lines of cosmetics for all skin types, designer jewelry, and many accessories. Brands include ColourPop, Maybelline, Revlon Professional, Urban Decay, Sephora, and many more. To get a hold of these products, you can call Sadiq Khan at 345-5824 or Amira Khan at 759-6089. You can also visit our Facebook page at A-Class Glamour to follow for newly released lines of products.
सदक़े में आका सारे जहां को दीन मिला बेदीनों ने कलमा पढ़ा ला इलाहा इल्लल्लाह तेरे सदक़े में आका सारे जहां को दीन मिला बेदीनों ने कलमा पढ़ा ला इलाहा इल्लल्लाह
If you'd like to advertise or be a sponsor of this show, please contact Alhikmat office. Telephone number 1954-986-0158 or 1-868-325-8276. Or you can email us at alhikmat@alhikmat.com.
Truly he is the one, he has no father or son.